And Liverpool's kings of the court are champions of Europe once again.
All right, so Dreams and Songs to Sing. We're on episode 5, I believe. We're doing another kind of rewind of just one of the greatest nights in Liverpool's history, and it's convenient. It was only a year ago, so we don't have to think back of what we were doing 15 years ago, like Istanbul or Cardiff. And I must say, I'm giddy like a schoolgirl, because I think that this is possibly my favourite Liverpool moment ever. And I believe we've also got the best lineup we've ever had on this. So I'll go through these one by one. We've got a Liverpool fan who was actually at the game, who was actually at the second leg, James Kelly. James, how are you?
How you doing?
And we got Byrne, who was at the first leg at the new camp, who's a Barcelona fan. Byrne, how are you?
I'm good, Anthony. How are you?
Good, man. I'm fine. And I got Pyne here, who, considering what happened that week, what happened with the Liverpool game, the Spurs game, I'm sure you would have been covering some of that for RTE. How are you, Anto?
I'm good, Anto. All good.
Good. All right, lads. We're going to get stuck into it in just a second. But first, we have to talk about this, because there's the reason we're sitting here is because there is no football. And I know James was supposed to be at Anfield right now. So the Bundesliga is back up soon. Barcelona are going to be training. I think they already have started training. The Danish league apparently is going to be starting again. So, Anto, is this looking good now for Project Restart for Liverpool to get this title and get over the line?
I think it will happen under duress. It's going to be very messy, and there will be clubs that drag their heels with this, be kicking and screaming. It's just unavoidable now that no matter what happens, there's a line in the sand, and there will be people who, believe morally and ethically it's wrong to restart. There'll be other people who'll say, well, we have to come back at some stage, and as long as everything's done correctly and the right protocols and precautions are taken, then why not? But I do believe that it will happen now. Exactly when, I don't know. I would say, I think we'll be looking at it certainly by the start of July, maybe late June.
Yeah, but at least it does look a lot more promising. And Byrne, looks like Liga is going to be back up. I don't know if you saw the video yesterday of Barcelona coming back. To me, it as dying as I am for the football to start, it looked a little bit weird. The players arriving in the car with the face masks on and getting checked before they even get out of the car. A lot of the players didn't look over the moon to be back, if you know what I mean. So, what do you think is the possibility of this kind of getting back on track without any hitches, and what can Barcelona realistically achieve? Because they went back on top before the break, and you'd imagine they're going to get through the Champions League tie as well.
I think morally and ethically that it's probably too early to bring players back. I know Aguero was quite vocal about it, that there is a percentage of footballers that aren't comfortable with it, that obviously have children, have older relatives, that I think they might feel like they're being used and manipulated a bit, because the demand for the country, for a lot of countries where football is the main sport, is let's get normality back via the medium of watching football, and footballers are the kind of the cannon fodder in that. So I would be against it. I have expressed on this pod before that I think the current seasons have to finish, but I think to start again now while the debt rate is still very high per day is careless, and it would be a no for me.
All right, fair enough. And James, I'm delighted to meet you, because you were at let's be honest, one of the greatest nights in Anfield history. But sadly, you were supposed to be at Anfield right now as well for the Chelsea game. Tell us what what happened with your situation there? Because yesterday we spoke to another fan who had tickets for the game today, and this wasn't just any old game, was it?
No, this was the one where we were meant to see the Hendo Shuffle and the Premier League trophy over his head. Like, basically, we left the flights, and we're lucky enough we have kind of a good rapport with a hotel that we use quite a bit out there. And in fairness to them, everything was fine with them.
Mm-hmm.
We'd held off on the transport to the game, like flights or driving. Even we were kind of throwing everything on the table for 4 of us that were going. And one of the guys was actually in from Frankfurt, so he actually posted up his flight details there this morning. I don't know what his situation was. I wasn't really talking to him, but it's a little bit of, how you say, deflation, I suppose, today, thinking about what should be going on, you know what I mean? Like,
and it's a bank holiday in England at the moment as well, isn't it? So, I mean, can you imagine what the city would have been like?
Oh, it'd have been hopping.
Agreed. Well, listen. If we get this podcast right and we're all drinking cans, who knows? Maybe we can get this podcast hopping. Maybe not. All right. Let's get stuck into the game, because last time we talked about Istanbul, it went on about as long as Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. So I want to try and get this in a nice little tidy hour. Anto, I'll start with you. Liverpool went into this in unbelievable form. They were chasing City. And I remember at the time thinking, we don't look like we're going to not win here. There was no draws. It was just win, win, win. And I thought City they're going to slip up sooner or later. They want the Champions League more than we wanted. We want the league more than they wanted. So what did you remember about Liverpool coming into the first leg at the Nou Camp? Were you kind of thinking, this is potentially, we're going to get an injury here which could scupper the title challenge? Were you confident? Because Liverpool actually have a good record at the Nou Camp. They had 2 draws and a win from the last 3 visits. So what were your feelings about a year ago when we were on our way to the Nou Camp?
Very relaxed, because it was weird. It's easy to forget this, but at the time, the priority was still, I think, among most of the fans, was still the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, Gary Neville had said earlier in the season that he sort of suggested that Liverpool would sacrifice the Champions League down out early if they could help win the league. And Jurgen Klopp really railed against that. But to be fair, I mean, there was a big reaction kickback. But in all fairness, like, I think a lot of fans actually kind of quietly would have thought that. Like, everybody wanted the league. It had been so long. So I was still kind of, it sounds crazy, like, you get to the semi-finals, there was still this thing in my mind that, like, well, we're in bonus territory with the Champions League. Now, the league is the one we want. I still thought we were going to win the league at that point. I still believe that City were just going to slip up. So, for the sort of the magnitude of the game, I was pretty relaxed. Of course, when it starts and it kicks off and, it hits you how huge it is, Barcelona at the Nou Camp, the semi-finals of the Champions League, then you become invested in it. But the one thing I remember about this is that I was very confident. I wouldn't say that I was confident Liverpool would win, but I was very confident that they'd score. And I thought even like a 2-1 defeat would have been a pretty good result for Liverpool, because we were taking them back to Anfield.
Yeah. And Byrne, I want to ask you about the atmosphere that night at the Nou Camp. But first of all, yesterday I spoke with Paul Kelly, and we were talking about being an Irish Liverpool fan, and people maybe from other countries, I mean, not Australia and Asia, obviously, they have even further to travel, but maybe people who live in Liverpool City take for granted the logistics of, getting time off work, organising your hotel, getting the tickets itself is not easy. So what's it like for you being a Barcelona fan in Ireland? Have you found a kind of a way that's easy to get tickets and get accommodation, or is it a bit of a mission?
It was a mission for this game to get tickets because of the demand. So Liverpool, I think, brought over about 10 or 15,000 fans.
Yeah.
And all of the tickets of Barcelona go to the members, first of all. So there's like 3 stages of release. But yeah, I've never had a game where I haven't been able to get a ticket for it. And this was my 5th Barcelona match of that season.
Yeah.
And obviously the last one. So yeah, I always found it quite easy, and flights are kind of cheap, so it's not that hard.
Right. And what was the atmosphere like? Because Barca were going for the league. Were they? How did the Barcelona fans see the draw with Liverpool? Did they see this is a very winnable, or were they fearful of Liverpool? What was the feeling amongst the Barca fans?
I'd say they were fearful. Like Barcelona had struggled in the Champions League since they won it in 2015.
That's right.
So I think after that they hadn't been beyond the quarters. This was their first semi since then. And Liverpool, when I saw the draw, it was the worst team that they could get. All of Liverpool's kind of strongest points are designed to exploit Barcelona's weaknesses. So like I had a bet on, and I meant to look this up before the pod, but the day of the match I put on a bet, and I think I backed Liverpool to win either 4-0 or 4-1 at the Nou Camp. That's how confident I was Liverpool were going to tear them apart.
Wow.
Obviously wrong, and I was happy to be wrong that day. But
You went wrong the
for me,
second time,
it was, yeah, for me, I was expecting Liverpool to tear Barcelona apart. You know, their legs are gone. They're an aging team, and the Nou Camp is such a big pitch that I thought Liverpool would rip them apart.
Well, that's kind of a nice segue because James, the lineup was there was 3 big surprises. You had Trent on the bench for Joe Gomez. So obviously Klopp was concerned about Coutinho and Alba. You had Gini Wijnaldum, which was the talking point of the team, because he was playing a number 10, which he played for Newcastle, and we were dying to see him play this role, but it felt like it was the wrong night. And then you had Naby Keita, who's just had the most stop-start. You know, he can't, and then he played really well, I remember, in the first 20 minutes of this game, but then went off injured again. So what were your feelings with the team? We're looking at the team now. What did you feel when you saw the Barca team come up pretty much full strength, by the looks of it, compared to the Liverpool one?
I was looking at it and I was just thinking to myself, you're losing Trent off the right-hand side. He gives you so much creativity going forward. Like, and I just thought to myself, is there a reason? And Klopp is looking at Jordi Alba bombing forward and he wants to stop that whole thing of we're not going to go forward on the right-hand side. I was also looking at it in the Gini sense of it. I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, Gini needs to be in that middle 3. And I kind of thought to myself, would you not be better pushing Naby on? And I know the stop-start element of the season, but I thought in that role for Leipzig, he was very, very good. And you touched on it there about the 20 minutes that Naby was on the field. Naby played some unbelievable passes in around the back and getting Salah and Mane to move forward. Even Gini in a couple of senses. Look, you know what you're getting with Fabinho and Milner. They're just in the midfield workhorses. You know what I mean? Like, and getting that with them. The rest of the team, I suppose, was self-explanatory, really. But I just felt to myself, are we prioritising the league here? And look, probably in a Klopp sense, he probably was. I know Bobby had a knock that night, but I would have thought maybe Shaqiri to come in there if we were going to play that number 10 role, or Naby, you know.
Yeah. And Anto, by half-time, Liverpool are a goal down. A kind of a well-taken goal by Suarez, and he'd been up to his antics the whole half. So, first of all, tell me how you felt at half-time. Did you think Liverpool were a little bit unlucky, or did you think Barca had played them well? And what was it like watching Suarez for the first time with his antics now on the other end of it now, kind of receiving his kind of, his whole shtick?
Didn't surprise me about Suarez at all. I mean, that is the type of player he is. He was the same at Ajax and Liverpool. Like, players like him, he doesn't just turn it on and off. It is what makes him such a brilliant player. So I just accepted that. It's similar to when we played Atletico Madrid this season. You really can't complain about those type of antics and tactics, and like this is.
It's considered good play over there, isn't it?
It's part of the DNA and the makeup of the player. So it's obviously annoying. Like, you're looking at it going, it's irritating and it winds you up, but you get it. Like, we watched him for 3 years at Liverpool. That's what he is. So it didn't surprise me at all. And the game at halftime, I was concerned by the pattern of the game, because Liverpool were having a lot of the ball and it just seemed like we were kind of getting sucker punched a bit, and it was a reminder that Barcelona, okay, maybe not quite what they were, but they are laced with some serious quality, and players like that, the likes of Suarez, Messi, they're just more dangerous almost when they don't have the ball. When they go missing for a few minutes, they just have that ability to just stab you in the heart in the blink of an eye. So I was a little bit worried that it was going to turn into one of them nights where we'd have like a lot of the ball and play quite well and get sucker punched, which is what happened in the end. Although I still felt that we were going to nick a goal. I just thought there was a goal in us.
Yeah. And Byrne, how are you feeling? Because you obviously you told us that you would have wanted to put Liverpool as hammering, sweeping Barca aside. So were you convinced at half time that Barca were doing a job? Because what I remember from that first half is it must have been great to watch it as a neutral, because it was so fast. It was absolutely relentless. And the second half was the same as well. So how are you feeling at half time and the fans around you in general? Was there kind of like a feeling like we're doing a job on them here? They picked the team to try and nullify us, but we're a goal up. And Liverpool, we had some half chances, but Liverpool didn't at the same time. We didn't, we weren't all over you.
Yeah, I think the feeling at that point was, we're only a quarter of the way through the entire leg. So I don't think anyone was necessarily feeling comfortable of a Barcelona persuasion. I think for me, the end I was in behind the goal was the end that Liverpool were attacking in the first half. And I'd say in the first 5 minutes, Mane kind of went up against PK, I think. Mm-hmm. And it looked a stonewall penalty to me.
Yeah.
And this was obviously, I think VAR had probably come in for the knockouts of this Champions League. I don't know if it was in it the entire season.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that was a penalty. And that, to me, in a nutshell, was what this game was going to be about. Barcelona can have possession, but as soon as Liverpool's front two, Salah and Mane, get up against that back four, they're in trouble. So at half-time, I think, probably felt lucky that Barcelona had snatched a goal to go in front.
And James, we're coming up to this, the Barca second. There's a lot of luck involved, but you could say to that point that the gamble that Klopp took wasn't paying off. Keita had gone off. Liverpool didn't have an outlet with Gomez as an attacking force, and Gini just couldn't get into the game. So at 2-0, were you feeling at that point, I want this game to end now at 2-0, we'll take them back to Anfield? Did you feel it was game over, or did you still feel that Liverpool could maybe snatch an away goal?
I thought with the amount of possession we had, it was just, we're going to do something here. I thought we were going to nick a goal maybe. It was going to be on the counter maybe. I never wanted it to end. It was kind of, the game was so fast paced, as you said, like that. I just thought to myself, we're going to catch these on the counter. Definitely going to nick one and bring it back. The way goals are crucial when we go to Anfield.
Mm-hmm.
Then Messi. I was listening to Peter Crouch and Andy Robertson on the podcast yesterday on the Crouch pod, and he was just saying, like, he skint me. He says, you're guessing at what he's going to do. You're guessing trying to defend him. He's just countered out with another player, like, and I think it's just testament to the class act he is.
Yeah,
he was like, we talk about Suarez's antics. When I was watching it on the TV at home, I just thought to myself, Messi's up to Suarez's antics as well, which I didn't expect to come out of him. Now, maybe I was the only one in the here that felt it, but he's just sheer class as well. Like you see there, that wow.
Well, I got to come back to Byrne for this because Byrne, you've got a great view of this. We're looking at a video now of you, the seat that you're in. So talk us through this goal. Where does this rank in Messi's bet? I know you'd be here all night trying to even break down his top 50, but I mean, I genuinely, there's times where where when Liverpool conceded the goal, the first thing I want to know is whose fault was that? What you're angry, but that was just a moment where I thought, we're out of the tie and we're out of it to a genius. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with Messi. Like, if you go back 3 or 4 years, he wasn't the prominent free kick expert that he was, despite being, the best player in the world for the last 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. He was never that strong on free kicks, and it's like in the last 3 seasons, he's really put a lot of time into developing that side of his game. And I've seen him play probably about 10 times, and I'd record it when I think he's going to shoot from a free kick, hoping I'll capture the moment Messi has scored a lovely free kick. With this one, I was thinking it's too far out. He's not going to shoot here. Yeah. And literally at the last second, I decide, just in case, I'll take a video of it.
It's funny actually. There was a story came out pretty recently where the Brazil boss claimed that Alisson blamed Joe Gomez for this goal. I don't know if you lads remember that. He basically he claimed that Gomez didn't show enough courage in the wall, which seems incredibly harsh because of the Gee.
It's a weird thing. Like when you see that replay from that one angle, it looks like it touches Gomez. Like it just grazes him, but it doesn't do anything to deviate the trajectory of the ball at all. It's weird that it touches him, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if he could have been braver or not. I think that's probably a little bit harsh. And Alisson probably doesn't move his feet quick enough. But Alisson and Messi had kind of an interesting rivalry in the fact that Alisson was with Roma the year before when Roma knocked him out, and in June following this game of May last year, they're in the semi-finals of the Copa America together, and Alisson saves 2 Messi free kicks then. So there's a weird kind of free kick rivalry, and this is probably the only time Messi's really got the better of him.
Yeah. I mean, when the ball was put down, I thought, well, that's Ronaldo range, because he puts his foot through it and he'll put some movement on it. But Messi is known. Messi doesn't just hit it and hope. I mean, he curls them, and I thought, well, at least we're all right here, unless Suarez takes it, and then Messi does what he does. So, Anto, we're 3-0 down. Liverpool have had a couple of incredible chances. Salah misses from, 5 yards out, hits the post. Firmino has one cleared off the line. Liverpool have done virtually nothing wrong, really. They've run. Barca look flat out as well. Dembele has that chance to put the tie to bed. I don't think we're sitting here even talking about this if Dembele puts that one to bed. So by the end of this, I remember talking to you. I was devastated. I just, because I thought it was starting to look as if Man City weren't going to slip up. Was there anything that you could take from this? Was there anything, possibility that Liverpool could do what they were about to do, or were you thinking, well, that's that trophy done for this year?
No, I have to be honest. I completely put the tie in the bin at that stage. Like on the night, I felt that the Salah chance was going to be the defining moment of the tie, because that was such a good chance. And had we got the away goal, it just changes the whole complexion of it, sets it up for Anfield. Well, actually, the chance that was the defining moment of the tie was actually Dembele's, because, as you say, 4 and it's done. And if you look back at the reaction, Messi's reaction to his miss, Messi just crumpled on the floor. I think he maybe sensed that, because don't forget, they had been stung before against Roma. And there was kind of stories coming out after the second leg where Messi, before the last thing he said to Barcelona before they went out for the second half, Messi actually said to the dressing room, "Don't let Roma happen again." So it's obviously in his head. It's really scarred him, and he's still thinking about that. They have to go to Anfield. There's a huge amount of respect for Anfield in Europe, particularly in Spain. It does have this kind of aura around it. So even for someone as good as Messi, he's probably thinking to himself, how much can I trust the rest of these lads? Now? So I think that was the big moment. But at the time, you're thinking, well, that's surely it, because 3-0. It's still any team that has Messi in it coming into a second leg, where the away goal, just as Atletico did to Liverpool this season, the away goal can, no matter how well you play, it punctures the whole thing immediately. So I had given up.
I'll stay with you, Anto, because I want to finish with James, because we're moving on to the second leg, and obviously he was there, so we want to hear what the night was like. But Anto, where did you watch the second leg? Because just to paint a picture for it, and some people forget, even Liverpool fans forget this, in between the two legs, Man City the night before had beaten Leicester to basically win the league. That goal by Vincent Kompany puts the nail in the coffin. Realistically, City are not blown it from there. And Liverpool had an absolutely draining game against Newcastle, where they'd lost Salah to concussion. So did you make a big night of the second leg, or was it just kind of like, I'm watching it because there's nothing else to do kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I funnily enough, I watched the Newcastle game in Prague with Byrne there, and then just watched the second leg at home with my father. And look, you kind of want to be able to say that you still believed and you never gave up, but I can't say that. I gave up. I didn't. There was nothing in my head that thought Liverpool were going to do this. And
it was like halftime in Istanbul, though, wasn't it? Basically.
It was. It was. It was kind of like, well, I'll watch it and see what happens. But I never contemplated that Liverpool were going to do it. And not to jump too far ahead here, but my reaction when they did it, at the final whistle was I actually just started laughing. It was just laughter because I couldn't compute that what they'd actually done. And it's not just that they turned it around; it's the players they were missing. They turn it around minus, how many? Three key players at least.
Yeah.
So, I going into it, Anto. Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't comprehend how they were going to turn it around. I really couldn't.
Yeah. And all right, James. So you turn up. I presume you got your tickets long before the first leg, so you were probably thinking this is going to be a in the balance, touch and go, keep it tight. Maybe the first few minutes. We're 3-0 down. What was your feeling going into Anfield? What was the mood like, especially after what had happened the night before? We basically lost the league, and we're on our way to getting 97 points, and we still can't win the league. So what was the mood with yourself? What was the mood at Anfield? Was there honestly any feeling that a miracle could happen?
Honest to God. So the Monday night, myself and the brother were watching the Man City game on the couch at home, and we were just chatting. I'll never forget, a company comes across the halfway line with the ball, and I just says, somebody needs to go shut him down, like I was hoping Vardy would, you know what I mean? Like, and next thing, the brother says, Podgy says, no, he's grand. And next thing, bang, company, cracker, top corner.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the chair, and I just says, like, is there any point in going tomorrow? Like, just pure deflated. And he was like, yeah, of course there is. Like, if tickets got, flights are got, you're off work, whatever. So I was there going, I just thinking to myself, like, oh, what's the point? Like, and I'm not being just like completely what Anto said, like, no belief whatsoever. I think it was just shouting me because we literally lost the league the night beforehand. So we went anyway the next morning, flew over, and we were staying down opposite Jory's in an Airbnb, and we just were kind of lazing around the city for the day and whatnot. And you're still like, you're kind of thinking, we might do something, we might not do something. You're just, no. So we're getting an Uber actually, out to the game. And as we're getting into the Uber, we're outside the Shankly Hotel, and I think it was about 4 Barca fans came up and asked, could they share the Uber out with us? So we were like, yes, go on. So they jumped in, and we were chatting the whole way about the game, and they were Messi, what he's going to do. And just getting out of the taxi, I says, lads, you're going to be betting Anfield tonight. Just said it, blasé, you're going to be crying going out of Anfield. We were after they gave us 2 little badges for the scarves, like for myself and the brother,
right?
Taxi and whatever, and like grand, or the Uber. And I just said it blasé. I says, lads, you're going out here crying tonight, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. Laughed the whole way going down the street. Literally didn't believe a word of it. Just said it just to be a little bit of a shit house, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
We got the tickets, went into the stand, and I was sitting lower newsstand, and I was sitting upper newsstand. So I was in, and there's like a gantry in front of me, like, and there was an air about it going in. We met Eric Abidal going in as well, like, and I was saying, do you think you're going to win tonight, Eric? And he was like, yes. And he was kind of saying it happy enough, like, that this is going to be a long contest. But anyway,
it sounds like you only met Barca representatives and fans on the way in.
No, look, you run into all the Liverpool, the Liverpool usual was like Ray Malone and things like that over there. Yeah. Everything was cool, you know what I mean? Like, but there was an era, like, we could do something. It was more optimism than anything else, real distant optimism that we could do something. Right. So I'll never forget it. Walked up the steps, got into the stand, and there's like a gantry in front of me. Kelly Dalglish is in it, so she is. Alan Shearer, Guim Balaguer, they're all in front of it. And I just saw this seat, and I just thought Ukraine TV, and I was like, chancing my arm here, there's an empty seat there. So as the game was just about to start, I ran down and jumped into it, and it was like, technician. And everyone just looked at me, she's like, okay. So I just sat in the gantry for the night watching the game, like.
Nice. All right. Border, I'm not going to ask you, did you think what was going to happen? Because, let's be honest, we all thought that Barca were at least going to score 1 and the tie was going to be over. But I want to ask you about Coutinho, because do you think he got picked on merit, or it was kind of more of a sentimental kind of choice? He's gone back to his old club with something to prove. And also I want to ask you, what happened? What went wrong with Coutinho? Because this is pretty much his last game for the club. And if a lot of Liverpool fans, I don't know if they remember this, but the last 6 weeks before he left us, I thought was arguably the best form he's ever shown. Like, he looked miserable. He didn't look like he wanted to be there, but his form was incredible. So tell me about, do you think Coutinho in hindsight should have started? that night, and about Coutinho in general? What went wrong at Barca?
Should he have started that night? No, and obviously hindsight is 2020. But even before, I don't think he should have. Like under Valverde, they were most successful playing a 4-4-2 with a kind of a flat four of hard-working midfielders across the middle. I think they squandered the money they got from Neymar buying Dembele, who I think if he was fit would be a good player for Barca. Coutinho was always going to be a square peg in a round hole there. Like his main asset, when you think about Coutinho, it is cutting in from the left, bending that right-footed shot into the top right corner. And what Messi needs around him when he drifts into the middle is lads to run behind the defence and stretch the team and open them up where he can play those passes.
Yeah.
Coutinho wants to come into that number 10 position from the left wing. Messi's doing it from the right wing. You've nobody going in behind, and I don't know why they bought him, to be honest. You know, maybe it's getting
especially for that fee.
For that fee, it ran on so long. Doing a deal where I think they have to pay Liverpool a premium if they buy anyone else from Liverpool within a certain period. It just made no sense. But when you look at their other transfer dealings, it's kind of in line with it. There's no real plan there. You know, Griezmann probably falls into a similar category.
Well, I mean, he's not the first player. I mean, when an attacking player is signed for Barca, it's all about how can you cater for Messi. And, you know, Ibrahimovic only lasted a year. Ronaldinho, you know, was basically phased out of the club to cater for Messi. And Griezmann at the moment doesn't look like he can cut it. And Coutinho's the same. And just before I move on to Anto, I just want to ask you about Suarez, Byrne, because he left such an impression on Liverpool fans that unless you watch them every week, and you take the shithousery that he pulled and all of his antics, but he would be genuinely considered in the top 5 best strikers that the Liverpool ever had, which is really incredible to think about, seeing that he wasn't actually there that long. And I think I've seen a lot of him at Barca. I think he's become even better at Barcelona. So just tell me in general, what do you think of Suarez compared to the one at Liverpool? Is there a difference in it, or it's just the fact that he's surrounded by better players?
I think Suarez at Liverpool, he's probably the best Liverpool player I've seen in my lifetime. Certainly best striker. Like the game against Norwich, I remember watching the highlights of that where he scored 4 back in 2013 maybe, and all of the goals were like of the highest quality. He reached a level I'm not sure I've seen any player in the Premier League reach in my lifetime. He was that good at his peak at Liverpool. When he moved to Barcelona and he was part of that front three, Messi, Neymar, Suarez, they should have won more than they did. You know, they only won one Champions League. But he became a different player then, and his kind of creation of his goals at Liverpool, where he'd create goals for himself, he'd score out of nothing. You know, that goal he scored again against Norwich, this time at Carrow Road from like 45 yards, things like that. He didn't really do that at Barcelona at all. He was very much the central striker, and he'd link with Neymar and Messi. Mm-hmm. I think over the last 2 years, and I've written him off a few times, and I would have said this to Anto, like when I've been at a game, Suarez is like playing with 10 men. He's been that bad. And I think his friendship with Messi, him and Messi are best mates. Yeah. Warriors are best mates. They go on holidays together. That's detrimental to Barcelona as a whole, because if he wasn't Messi's mate, I think they'd have gotten rid of him before that. Okay. In saying that, like, this was the season where I'd written Suarez off, and I'd gone to a Clasico in October. Messi was injured. Suarez got a hat-trick against Real Madrid. Yeah. Then I was at the Clasico in February. Suarez gets 2 and he wasn't playing well. So I think at this point his legs are gone. He has a lot of knee injuries, and he comes short all the time. And again, Barca are easy to play against. So he's a very different player now from the guy who scored. How many league goals did he get in that season, 2014? About 30, 33 or something?
Yeah, I mean, he won the PFA, he got 30 goals,
Yeah, he's very different. He's a lot less mobile. Some of the Barca players, including Messi, call him fatty because he seems to struggle with his weight at times. He comes back heavy. I saw a picture from the other day. Like, obviously, he's been out with a knee injury again for 3 months or so. He's looking very heavy. I'd be amazed if they don't move him on. and replace some of the younger number 9, somebody who's more mobile.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so Anto, it's an old cliche, but they're missing 2 of the 3 front 3. Salah's got a concussion. Firmino has got a knee problem. So Shaqiri gets the nod, and Divock Origi is playing up front. And hadn't really seen a lot of Origi. I mean, you almost got the impression Klopp wanted to reward him for the heroics in the Merseyside derby back in December. So I know it's a cliche, but Liverpool needed a quick start. And I remember not celebrating the first goal. I was delighted that we got off to the start we did, but I just thought it's still too much to ask. Barcelona looked very lively. I think people forget how lively Messi was that night. So your thoughts on the first, say, 10, 15 minutes?
Well, straight away, what Liverpool did, this is the brilliance of Klopp. Like, the way they started the game, like a team that believed they were going to do it, or at least give it a right rattle. And that's actually really important, because it changes the whole mood. And James will probably attest to this because he was in the ground, but it suddenly makes everyone start to think, well, they actually believe they can do this. So you start on the front foot, very high tempo, very aggressive and fired up, and asking Barcelona, are you ready for this? Can you handle this? And there's a real, it's easy to turn Anfield into a, talk about the cliches and the mythology of it and the aura of Anfield. Like in practical, in sort of logical terms, when they're trying to explain like how a ground like Anfield can affect a team as good as Barcelona, it's just the fact that it is like an old-fashioned English stadium. So the crowd are close to the pitch. They are very partisan. This isn't just applied to Anfield. There's a lot of grounds in England that are similar.
Highbury was great for that as well, wasn't it?
Highbury was like it. I think, let's say the old Upton Park, like Byrne, I know is a West Ham fan as well. Everton as well. And also, when you got what Klopp has done with this Liverpool team, he's actually made them play in he's modernised old traditional English qualities. So they're very physical, very fast, in your face. And the start sets the tone for the rest of the game. Now, I was like you, the first goal goes in, and there's something about you. It's almost like you try to protect yourself from more ambush. Like, you don't want to lose it too much because there's so much of the game to play. Messi just looks so dangerous every time he gets the ball at his feet. But, I went from looking at it almost, not passively, but not believing, to suddenly thinking, all right, well, there could be a game on here, and because they start so well, as I said, like, it sets the tone straight away. So it was a great start, and it made it a competition again. There was not too long way to go, but it suddenly made it interesting. I think even for neutrals, probably worth thinking that as well.
Okay, and James, the second half is about to get underway, and you see Robbo's not coming back on. Milner's going to have to cover at left back, which he always does so well. And Gini Wijnaldum's coming on after a really poor first leg, where he was played out of position, you could say. I mean, although we signed him as a number 10. What was the feeling then? Because that, for me, was even more confirmation. It's just, this Liverpool team is so good. If you take one element out of it, especially how important our wing backs are, which proved to be, on the other side. What was the feeling at half-time when the second half was about to get underway? Because Barca, Alisson made a couple of really important saves as well.
Yeah, no, I to be honest with you, the minute the first goal went in, there was an air of belief started to come more and more throughout the crowd. So it just started to lift decibels. So it was just, the noise was incredible. Second half, I was at one of the Concord and I was talking around, the fans and whatever, and we were like, yeah, we can do this, we can do this. The belief, it was just oozing out of the fans, so it was onto the field. When you look at Robbo going off, you're kind of, is Millie going to get up and down the line? You're doubting those aspects of the game that those players have and they bring to the game. But obviously after the first leg, you're kind of a little bit hesitant about him. Is he going to have something similar? You're hoping not, but it's still at the back of your mind. But my God, the atmosphere was electric.
Yeah. And I mean, Anto, there's so many parallels with Istanbul, though, because it's not the fact that they get the second the two goals are so close together, isn't it? Like Barca don't have time to even think about what's happening. Gini gets the first one. There's a lot of luck because Stegen actually saves it, but then it comes back off his back. So I mean, what were you thinking when Gini gets the first? I mean, I'm not even going to ask you what you're thinking in between, because almost straight away Liverpool were level in the tie. And even at that point, I went, don't get me wrong, I celebrated the equaliser. I just kept thinking, if Barca score and they do look so threatening, this all falls like a house of cards.
Well, I'm thinking, like, deep in my brain, like, if I was a neutral and I wasn't emotionally invested in the game, when Liverpool do that sucker punch to 1-2, and as you say, there are parallels to Istanbul and that they got those two goals so quickly together, I'm thinking logically there's only one winner here because of the body language of Barcelona, the way they're reacting, the atmosphere, and Liverpool. It's weird. Like, they had a lot of setbacks within that game. Like, losing Robertson was a huge blow, but every time they have a setback, it seems to galvanise them even more. Yeah. And then we hear about after the game of psychologically what Klopp had done and sort of challenging them, telling them that it was impossible for any other team but them, and they all seem to buy into that. Now, watching the game as a bag of nerves and as a natural sort of pessimist, I'm thinking, Jesus, like, Liverpool are going to play this well and do this, and Barcelona are just going to nab a goal. You know, they're gonna nick a goal, and that'll be it. But you got to mention how good Alisson was that night. It was an absolute masterclass, and he was brilliant in the final as well. But just a brilliant goalkeeping display that was so good that it actually goes under the radar, because his position and his technical ability as a goalkeeper means that he very rarely scrambles for spectacular saves. He just always seems to be in the right position. And Barcelona did have moments similar, like when Liverpool got back to 3-3 with AC Milan, there was, sustained pressure then. It was like AC Milan woke up. They were punch drunk, and suddenly they woke up and they peppered. Yeah. And it wasn't the same with Barcelona, but there was definitely a bit of a reaction where there was sort of 5-10 minutes where they sort of shook themselves down and had a bit of a go again. And that was the period where Alisson was superb for Liverpool that night, I thought.
Yeah, and James, there was a lot of luck with the Gini first one, but the second one is kind of forgotten. But how great of a header it is. But I watched the highlights literally an hour ago just to kind of get the memory going again, and I have this small obsession with the sounds that crowds can make when a goal goes in. So if a team is 7-0 up, for example, it's a very kind of like, well done. It's a testimonial kind of cheer. This cheer that goes in for this. And I think it is because if Liverpool had battered the door for 20 minutes and eventually got the breakthrough, but I remember not having time to process the second goal before, and all of a sudden, there's just this shock, there's a sound of like amazement that Liverpool have done it to a certain extent. So talk us through the moment between the second goal and the header that basically leveled the tie.
It felt like seconds. It felt like I know it was minutes, but it felt like seconds. There was the ball in from Shaqiri, I think, just goes on a miss. So it was absolutely spectacular. Like, just the whip on it. The header from Gini, wow, do you know what a finish? And like, you think back on it, you look at it and just go, as you're saying about Alisson, like, Liverpool's whole game there was just dominance of possession. Okay, I felt it was dominance of possession, and looking at it from the stand, felt we're going to do this. And as Anto said, like, playing this well, Barca going to nick one, that's at the back of your mind. But when this went in, it was just, in between the two, it was belief. We can do this, we can do this, we can do it. You don't think, like, you think it's going to happen, but how many times do you it happen? That was the one back of my mind. Yeah. And it was just when it hit the net, oh my God.
Listen, Byrne, I don't want to rub salt in the wounds, because Liverpool have suffered some humiliating moments in terms of throwing leads away to a lot worse teams than Liverpool. But were you surprised that Barca weren't able to fix this? Like, the players that were out there weren't able to get a grip of the game. Busquets looked like he was a 45-year-old. He couldn't stay with the pace. And were you surprised Valverde didn't make more radical changes? And could you see the tide eventually going the way it did, or could you see, well, look, we are going to get another chance, and sooner or later and if Barca score, it doesn't matter what Gini Wijnaldum does, because once we get that away goal, it's good night.
I thought they'd score before the tie started, but as it went on and you kind of saw the form Alisson was in, like I think they lack natural leaders in that team, and their brilliance when they were younger got them out of that. But when they were in adversity, apart from, I guess, Puyol, since he left, they never really had anyone to go, right, we need to keep our heads here. And like when you see that Barcelona documentary and Messi's words in the dressing room before going out, like it's not exactly instilling confidence in everyone, saying, remember what happened last year, remember that. And everyone's going out thinking, fuck, this can happen again. And that obviously happened in the Olympic Stadium in Rome, where there's a massive gap between the pitch and the fans and stuff. The onslaught built around the momentum of the fans generated here, I just felt like they were a bunch of fucking cowards. And I really, really felt for Messi, who I thought still, even though Liverpool win this game 4-0, he's possibly the best player on the pitch. Like, he creates 3 one-on-ones for his teammates. Obviously, he gets slated after, he's the figurehead, but if any one of those score, Coutinho misses one, Suarez misses one, Alba misses one, if any of those go in, you know, they're going to the final, they're probably beating Spurs. So I thought it was possible. They are a kind of a spineless team, and like Suarez hadn't scored an away goal in Champions League in 4 years. He still hasn't scored, so it's 5 years now. They just far too reliant on Messi to do something, and if he didn't, then this can happen. It'll probably happen again. And Valverde was culpable too. His changes didn't help. You know, he brought on Malcolm once they needed a goal. Possibly could have done that a bit earlier, and it wasn't a surprise.
You know, the Barcelona documentary based on the night at Anfield being covered. I thought it was very strange looking at it, and Jordi Alba crying in the dressing room. I thought, if a player's been substituted and he has that kind of a mental issue there as regards what he's playing in at that point in time, is it not their core? And maybe it was the reason Valverde, or he was axed, but he should have got substituted. Like, and looking back on it now, having won it, thinking he should have been whipped off straight away.
Well, I mean, Barca. The thing about La Liga is they kind of have it their own way most weeks there. And another thing that we didn't mention is Barca rested virtually the whole first team a couple of days because they'd already won the league, and I think they were supposed to be playing Sporting Gijón, and they rested, so they were fresh as a daisy. So the fact that Liverpool, and we already said Liverpool played a Saturday night game away at Newcastle that went to the wire. Okay, this is for James and Anto. Jump in, because this is the definition of an iconic goal. And I've been, you know, we talked about recently the Garcia ghost goal, and when I think about it, I've always been a little bit resentful. I love winding people up and think it didn't go over the line. Don't get me wrong, but it makes it sound even more that we fluked it and it was a freak of a game and a freak of a result, and the ball didn't even go in the net. This is a truly beautiful goal, because the vision is one thing. The spot what nobody else on the pitch did. And the photo that we're looking at, Shaqiri is about, I don't know, 10 yards from Trent. He's got his head down. Nobody is looking at this. To put with zero backlift, to put a ball right, Origi doesn't have to scramble to get it. He doesn't have to stick out a toe. And then the finish itself, there's a lot more to that finish than maybe Origi gets credit for. So I'll start with you, Anto, and then we'll move on to James. Talk us through this goal, because this for me is as beautiful as a goal as you're going to see.
So this was this goal in the 81st minute, I think, was it?
Yeah.
84. So I would say this goal was 171 minutes in the making over the course of this tie, because Liverpool, all right, they lost the first leg 3-0, but they exhausted Barcelona that night. You're talking about Barcelona rested their whole 11 in the game before this, and actually, the reason it didn't matter is because when you're attuned physically to playing at a certain intensity, you know, it that's what caught up on Barcelona. They just weren't used to playing at that type of intensity week in, week out. And so they actually switched off. There was a corner a few minutes before this goal, and they did the very same. They switched off, and Liverpool tried to play it quickly. And I think there was an offside or something that got them off the hook. And what's happening here is that at this stage, they're out on their feet. So if you look at them, and we have an image in front of us of a still from the corner, they're getting a breather. They've been exhausted for 171 minutes. They're taking a little break. And you talk about like big games, and there's all sorts. You can talk about tactics and formations for hours, but like speed of thought so often decides games like this. Just being tuned in, whether it's the last minute, it's particularly in the later stages of games. And this is just a brilliant example of speed of thought. It's just instant. He sees it, he does it. But Liverpool had worked on this before the tie. They had, all these
the ball boy apparently was in on it. The ball boy.
All these top clubs have very, very clever analysts poring over every team, looking for a chink in the armor, and it was an obvious one to exploit. They saw it like very clearly. Look, they do this all the time. They switch off the dead ball. So this is something they were looking for, and they just left them open. And it was just, he's seen it. He did it brilliantly. It was such a fluid, quick blink of an eye type of goal that you couldn't actually process it at the time. You didn't even, it happened so quickly that it was hard to react.
Yeah.
But amazing goal, amazing moment.
And James, we won't judge you. There's no shame in admitting it. Did you miss this goal?
I actually seen it. I saw Shaqiri going over towards Trent. I was like, right, Shaq's going to whip this. And next thing, just as Trent walking away, I saw him galloping back towards us. I was like, something's on here. And then bang, ball in across. I actually, to be honest with you, it happened so quick. It was more mouth stuff. This is, like you're saying there about, it was the 88th minute. It felt at that stage like it was the 89th, the 90th minute to myself. Like it was just, Arthur was after coming on before this. Arthur, I felt, was starting to get a kind of a hold on the middle of the field. He started to play messy. And I was kind of thinking to myself, we could be open here. This happens then. It's like the 89th minute. And then you look at it and you're going, it's the 80th minute with another 10 minutes to go again. These, no. Do you know?
And I mean, and if you can paint a picture for us, what's Anfield like? So I mean, you're living in history in this moment. We're not talking about like, let's think of another time that Liverpool got. I mean, the Roma game maybe was a good example a year earlier. It's a great atmosphere. It's a great game, and it's a wonderful performance. But Liverpool were 5-0 up, and we're in the final, and then they completely fall asleep, and it's a worried atmosphere. What's Anfield like? Paint us a picture. We're 4-0 up against a team that's dominated world football for 15 years. What was the stands like?
It was just mayhem of just Liverpool fans singing, roaring, cheering the team on at the top of their lungs. Like, you go to the Roma game and you're saying compare it to the Roma game. When we were at the top of that Roma game, multiply that scene, multiply that atmosphere by 1,000,000. I was there myself that night and I thought to myself, wow, the night with Barca, it was shock and awe of what we were able to do. Mm-hmm. And it's testament to the team that Klopp has built. Like, and like, look, Origi, what a ball! Like, the ball is excellent. But that finish, there's so much to do with that to put it into the top corner as well. It's cool. It's collected. It's Divock, like, do you know what I mean?
Nice.
He just doesn't. I heard one of the boys saying, I was on an LFC TV thing where he just literally, it's like the day phases him by, and if you look at his Instagram post, there's pictures of him just walking in like the countryside, and it's just like he's just the coolest, calmest individual in the team. But that finish is just
it's beautiful. He doesn't have time to take a touch.
No,
I mean, he just has to turn and hit.
But even before that, I have a video on my phone, and it's like just the crowd singing LA, LA, LA. And next in the corner is the usual come on the Reds, and it's kind of the whole place is lifting, it's shouting, cheering us on. The next thing, just out and over, this ball goes in and the place just erupts. Yeah. Like, you can even see there's subs spilling over onto the field. It's just electric. I can't put it into words.
Well, my story of this is I was living in Mexico, and with the time difference, I was due to start work at 4 o'clock. And it was a job that I wasn't that mad about, but the game was kicking off at 2 p.m, and I thought I should be able to, I'll leave the game 15 minutes early. And as things start to fall, I go, I ain't leaving this game. And then when Origi scores, I remember just texting my boss and said, I was stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late. I couldn't text him and say, Divock Origi's just scored an unbelievable corner taken quickly. Origi, I couldn't say that. So I just said, look, there's been a crash on the street here. It's pretty bad. And he bought it, thankfully. And I just sat there in the middle of the afternoon, by the way. I was living with a load of lads, and it was as quiet as, they're all off at work. I'm sitting in this house on my own, jumping around like a lunatic. And it's just absolute disbelief. Byrne, we've been raving here about this goal, but I never really thought about this. But when you look at even the pictures that we're looking at here, Champions League semi-final with 10 minutes to go, if you saw a Sunday League team, and I know that's another cliche, but if you saw a Sunday League team conceding a goal like that, you'd be furious.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with Barcelona, really since Guardiola left, is Messi's the biggest personality in the dressing room. And as he's gotten that bit older, I think probably doesn't want to work as hard as he used to. So, like, if you had a manager coming in that wanted to drill the team and have them working as hard as, say, Klopp has Liverpool working, and as fit as he has Liverpool, then that's not going to suit Messi, and Messi's not going to buy into it. So I think that kind of, as Anto has very astutely said, that is the culmination of 170 minutes of Barcelona having to play a lot of the game at Liverpool's pace and gasping. And that's as a result, I think, of just Valverde not having the team as fit as they should be. Their quality beats so many teams because they're technically, unrivaled. But when it comes to a night like that where you're against an unstoppable force with an amazing crowd behind it, you're gasping for air with 10 minutes to go, and you switch off. And mentally, they just weren't up to it. And I think with Origi's finish, it might be a bit hard on Origi, but I think that goal encapsulates him as a player. In that, from whenever I've seen him, he's obviously quite talented. He's fast. He looks like he has a good touch a lot of the time. Other times he looks like his first touch is horrendous. The fact that he isn't even looking at it when Trent makes contact with the corner means he doesn't have time to think about what's happening. And it's the instinct in him that brings out that technique that he has, whereas sometimes you see him in situations where he's a bit more time to deliberate his options. He makes a mess of it. So, it was. I was fuming at the end of it, to be honest. I watched it at home. At the start, I was apprehensive. I did check what odds Liverpool were to go through. They were 16-1 to go through on the tie. They were 66-1 to win 4-0. And I didn't back either of them because I thought Barca would score. And at the end of it, I was literally sick. It was the worst I'd felt watching a football match since Denmark beat Ireland 5-1 at the Aviva. And it possibly felt worse because it was just, I just felt like there was such a bunch of bottlers, and it was on the cards for so long in the second half.
2 years in a row as well, though.
They're like, and Jordi Alba, like as James rightly said, to see him in tears after the game. This is a man that's won Euro 2012 with Spain. He's won a Champions League with Barcelona. He's a serial winner.
Yeah.
He makes two mistakes, not just one mistake for the first goal. He has an absolute mare. You could see his head wasn't on it, and I think you have to put that down to Anfield combined with the intensity that they play at. It's just players don't come up against that anywhere else.
Okay. Anto, the final whistle goes, and in hindsight, the fact that we got Ajax or Spurs, I thought it was going to be Ajax. It almost felt like that's the final there. Like what drama could wait us in the final? Like it almost felt like we'd won the European Cup, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, at the time, after the final whistle, as I said earlier on, I just started laughing, and then it's just, you just can't believe what you've seen, and you soak up everything about it, the celebrations, and you relive it. But I think when we got closer to the final, I was very nervous about that final. and it was, in fairness, I think Spurs probably played better than Liverpool in the final, but there was that feeling of, well, it might just be Liverpool's destiny this year, that the name might just be on the cup. This was 2 years now of building towards it, and I think we touched on this before when we were looking back on Istanbul. Like, Istanbul was crazy and unique and brilliant, but there was more of a feeling this time around that Liverpool actually were the best team in Europe. Like, they actually were the best team in the competition. So, like, you did sort of feel like, that this is it. Their name is on the trophy this year.
James, I want to hear your thoughts on this, and then I'm going to come back to Anto, because I think you literally wrote a piece about this. Klopp, in his first couple of months, we get a last-minute draw at home to West Brom, and he brings the players to the Kop hand in hand, these big smiles, and he's, and he got ridiculed. People say, well, that's what they do in Germany, and people just thought, well, you're getting a last-minute equaliser against West Brom. So this kind of felt like his time at Liverpool, even though it was far from over, it'd come full circle, didn't it?
Yeah, look, I think we did get massive ridicule for that, and I hear a lot of Manx still shouting about it. You know what I mean? But that night, I put the West Brom on off as, look, they do it in Germany, whatever. And you look at, you're saying there about where Klopp started, and you look at where we are now. It's incredible. And that night was just like, I was in Kiev, and the devastation that night after that game was wow. But now, looking at where we are at the top of world football, and you're just thinking, this is the right moment. It's the right atmosphere and the right night to see how unison the club is as a whole, with the fans, the manager, the players. And you could just see, you could even see, I think in one of the videos, you can see Fabinho crying.
Yeah.
The man who literally clipped Suarez and Messi's wings there at one point in that game. I think 10 minutes in, Fabinho got a yellow for a tackle on Suarez. Here, this man is crying in front of the Kop. Just shows the test, the way, the unity between the players and everything within the club. And
it's so important, though, isn't it? Klopp's always kind of had that stress. He wants the fans to be a part of it. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. That's Liverpool. That night was just spectacular. I stood, just taking it all in, and I couldn't even sleep that night after it. When I got back to the Airbnb, I could not sleep. I just took it all in, and just to give you a side story just on it, just how good Liverpool are with the fans. Anto, I'm in a WhatsApp with you, and you saw there. My father's he's back in getting treatment for cancer, and basically we were at the Roma game last year with him, and we got a disability pass for him, and we contacted one of the girls in it to get the pass, and whatever. And at Christmas there, just on a whim, I said something and got an email off Peter Moore saying that if we could send over his jersey, they'd get it signed. And literally sent over the jersey, and they sent it back signed by all the team and the management.
That's fantastic.
It shows the unison of what they think of the fans. If you look at content on LFC TV, I think it's a testament to the club, media wise, and that's from top down,
Yeah. And I thought there was a kind of beautiful feeling of symmetry about the West Brom kind of walk to the Kop, and then this one, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't believe it was an accident. It was Klopp is a very, very intelligent man. There is that thing. I think earlier in his career, he's calmed down a little. He's mellowed a little bit, but he was such an animated guy on the line at Dortmund, particularly, and it allowed people to think he was some kind of clown. I remember even at Liverpool in his early days.
Joey Barton called him a glorified cheerleader.
Yeah, and even in the early days, the number 2, the name escapes me, that since left.
Bovac.
There was a theory that he was the brains and Klopp was the motivator. That's been completely dispelled now. He's a very, very smart guy, and it still surprises me how many people didn't understand what he was doing in the West Brom game. And just a quick refresher on that: Liverpool drew 2-2. They got late equaliser, and he brought the players down in front of the Kop for brought them down together to salute the Kop in his first season. And it was a very symbolic gesture. He was saying, we need you. When you stick with us, this is what can happen. And the reason he did it was because when he first got to Liverpool, he was quite frustrated with the fans. I mean, we talk about the power of Anfield and the atmosphere in Anfield, which it's potentially on the big nights like this, Anfield can be an incredible place, but it's often very quiet. And I think he was frustrated by that, and actually probably a little bit surprised initially, because in Germany, I would say week to week in the Bundesliga, the atmospheres generally are better than the Premier League. Like the Premier League is very cleverly marketed and hyped up.
Yeah.
But the Bundesliga, the grounds are hopping. Like it's actually a different culture there. I think you're allowed to drink in the stands, and the fans are, it's especially somewhere like Dortmund. So he was a bit frustrated by it, and it was him saying, when you stick with us, good things can happen. And it kind of got twisted that Liverpool were celebrating getting a draw against West Brom, which obviously wasn't the case. So I think this was, I don't believe it was an accident. This was the perfect bookmark of him sort of subtly underlining his point. Is like, look, this is what I was saying. You stick with it and you believe in this thing, we can actually do anything. And I did write a piece about it in the run-up to the Champions League final and mentioned this. I mean, there's a lot happened in the 4 years between these two games in terms of the personnel he brought in and the developments they made with the team. But it was a real nice bookmark to bookend then two games, and just the perfect way to actually to look at the progress they've made in his time. I mean, he's revolutionised the club. Agreed.
As for Barca, Byrne, I got to be honest, I was absolutely amazed that Valverde survived this. Did you, first of all, were you surprised as well that he survived up to a couple of months ago? And also, do you really believe that this Barcelona team deserved to go all the way? Was it that? I mean, was it that good of a Barca team?
No. So, like as I've touched on, it's the fifth game I'd seen this season of Barca. Saw them against Inter Milan, Champions League, and 3 Clásicos, 2 Clásicos at the Bernabeu. They won all the games I was at, but in all of them they weren't convincing. They beat Real Madrid 5-1, and I didn't think they were that good. And as the season went on, I started thinking, are they just one of those teams that learns to win in every situation? They don't play well, but they eke out results. But I think, as Anto said, there was a feeling Liverpool were the best team in Europe, and what they had did the season before, reaching the final, getting outdone by Madrid, largely thanks to a goalkeeping meltdown, and then fixing that with Alisson. That was the final piece in the puzzle, that they were the best team. And that's why I wanted to avoid them. I guess the only reason I was looking forward to playing Liverpool from a Barcelona point of view was just it had been so long since they had played each other. I don't think Messi had played against Liverpool before.
He did, but it was the game that Gudjonsson scored at Anfield, but Liverpool won on aggregate.
Great.
He was very young. He was very, very young though.
Yeah, so he was, there's that stat where Messi has scored more against the top 6 in England than Ronaldo has, and obviously Ronaldo spent years in the Premier League. So I wanted to see Messi at Liverpool, see what he could do. But no, I think, to bring it back to Valverde, they still had a cup final to go and play. It would have been harsh to sack him before that, which they obviously go on to lose as well. And and after that, I thought he had to go. End of the season, 2 meltdowns. But I think they'd lost like maybe 5 league games or something, and maybe 2 of those had been after the league was in the bag. So his domestic record was nearly flawless, and he was winning Clásicos. But a lot of it now counts for Barca on the European stage, and I think over the Roma tie and then the Barcelona tie, the Liverpool tie, he had shown himself just to be a little bit limited, I think, tactically.
Well, I'm going to ask you all one question each, and it's the same for James and Anto. But I'll start with you, Byrne. This is not from a Barca point of view or a Liverpool point of view. Just in terms of football in general, if you just look at it as a neutral, where does this rank? You think of the Barca PSG comeback, Deportivo, I think we're 4-1 down and came back against Milan. Man United 2-0 down away to Juventus. Where does this rank? Just if you remove your colours, how would you rank this in terms of the players that were missing? And
yeah, it's incredible. Like having Salah and Firmino out of this game, and then losing Robertson, your best weapons in many ways. Like I just, it's unbelievable. But even if you sit down to watch it again, you'd still find it hard to think this is what's going to happen because Barca have so much quality. Where it ranks, like I think in terms of Champions League football, from what I've seen, the Istanbul final is still the pinnacle, because that Liverpool team was fucking shit for most of it. You know, they had Jimmy Traore playing in that second half. Well, for the whole match. It's certainly up there, but it's hard for me to look at this through anything other than a disappointed Barcelona fans lens.
Nice. And James and Anto, I'll start with you, James. You've got Etienne, you've got Auxerre 92, Dortmund a few years ago, the Chelsea semi-final with Garcia, and the Chelsea one even a couple of years after. Where does this rank? Is this the greatest of them all, or is there another one that you put ahead of it?
Like, obviously Istanbul stands out straight away. You know, as Byrne said.
In terms of Anfield, though, greatest night at Anfield.
Oh, Anfield. This is it. To be honest with you, you have the team that's dominated world football in and around for the last 25 years. Best player in the world on show as well. Yeah. And I think two of our old weapons as well on show against us. And to go and do what we've done, it wasn't a hit and run job like with 45 minutes to turn it around. We had 90 minutes to endure whatever Barca could throw at us. Yeah. Able to do that and actually stem the tide, turn it around, and to make it our game, our night. I think it's top is the pinnacle.
Brilliant. And Anto, are you having that? Greatest Anfield night?
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, you have to say, like, as Liverpool fans, you're just very lucky to see things like this. Like, this is not the norm. It's such an unusual thing to see. And, you know, Byrne, or even as a Barcelona fan, I suppose for Barcelona, the PSG game is the equivalent. Yeah. But I think this was even more impressive, like, given the setbacks that Liverpool had, and just the nature of the performance on the night. Like, with Liverpool, I think you can be kind of blasé about it, like another great Anfield night and another one for the collection and the power of Anfield. But you should never take these nights for granted. That this is it was incredible, and it just feel very lucky that you're supporting Liverpool in an era where things like that can happen. So for me, it's the number one. Yeah.
Any before we go, any more anecdotes or stories that would be able to put on this about what happened in the Nou Camp, or what happened at Anfield, James? Anything you want to throw?
Are we not doing a quiz now?
I tell you what, we will. Should we do it, Anto?
Yeah. Go on, very quick.
All right. Basically, what we do is I'm going to name a player's team, the history of the teams that he's played for, and you have to guess the player. Now, I recommend that you wait until I start saying some teams and not on the first one. So, for example, if I said Real Sociedad, Liverpool, Real Madrid,
James,
Bayern Munich, yeah,
Alonso,
exact. Okay, first one. Oh, by the way, these are Barcelona players and Liverpool players, past and present.
Do I not get one for the Alonso one? No.
That's an example, my good man. don't ever question the quizmaster again. All right, first one. Okay, remember Barcelona and Liverpool players that have played over the last 10 years. Okay, here we go. Mataro, Barca, Arsenal, Barca, Chelsea,
James,
Monaco. Yeah.
Fabregas.
Correct. All right, next one. Fluminense, Rio Ave, Real Madrid, Monaco, Liverpool.
James.
Yep.
Fabinho.
All right.
Byrne
is on Wikipedia as we do. No, it's 2-0. Okay, next one. Basel, Bayern, Inter, Stoke. Yeah.
Scary.
Love it. Beautiful. All right. Nacional, Groningen. Yep.
Suarez.
Beautiful. All right. Now, this is the hardest one of the lot. And this is not a mispronunciation. Trenčín, Zenit St. Petersburg, Liverpool, Fenerbahce, Atalanta, Istanbul. Yeah.
Skartel.
Correct.
Ooh.
Gang. Oh, by the way, I'm naming the teams that they went on loan. Basel, Schalke, Sevilla, Barca.
Byrne.
Yeah.
Rakitic.
Correct. Anto, what's the scores?
It's 3-3.
3-3. All right, first to 5. I'm going to do this one because I just love saying this team's name. Colo. Leverkusen.
Byrne.
Yeah.
Arturo Vidal.
Excellent. All right. So one more for Byrne. You've won a. All right. Genk. Lille. Liverpool. Lille.
Byrne.
Yeah.
Divock Origi.
Correct, Amundo. That's it. All right, lads. I cannot thank you enough for this as usual. And if anyone's listening to this who wants to do something like this, you know, if you're bored at home, you want to come on, you feel like you got a good story to tell, like the one we had yesterday with Kelly, or telling us about, you know, not being able to go to see the title being lifted today. James, you played the Stormer today. Thanks a million for your anecdotes about that night. Byrne, thanks a million again coming on, telling your second most painful football memory. And Anto, brilliant as usual. So again, thanks a million for everyone's listening. More people seem to be getting into this than I ever expected. Like I said, we did this just to get through this lockdown, but it seems to be growing and people enjoying it. So like I said, if you want to do it, get in touch. We're on Facebook, Dreams and Songs to Sing podcast. That's the name. Thanks a million again, lads.